Let me ask you, what is inside of your house right now? Right now, what is inside of your house? Mm, I got my coffee. Happy Tuesday. Happy Bible reading. Okay, so today I am going to be reading from Second Kings chapter 4, verse 1. This is a story about Elisha and the widow's oil. So I'm going to read verse 1 through 7. All right, a certain woman of the wives of the sons of the prophets cried out to Elisha, saying, your servant, my husband, is dead, and you know that your servant feared the Lord. And the creditor is coming to take my two sons, to be his slaves. So Elijah said to her, what shall I do for you? Tell me, what do you have in the house? And she said, your maidservant has nothing in the house but a jar of oil. Then he said, go, borrow vessels from everywhere, from all your neighbors, empty vessels. Do not gather just a few. And when you have come in, you shall shut the door behind you. Shut the door behind you and your sons. Then pour it into all those vessels and set aside the full ones. So she went from him and shut the door. She obedient, ain't she? Shut the door behind her and her sons, who brought the vessels to her. And she poured it out. Now it came to pass, when the vessels were full, that she said to her son, bring me another vessel. And he said to her, there is not another vessel. So the oil ceased. Then she came and told the man of God, and he said, go, sell the oil, and then pay your debt, and you and your sons live on the rest. There is so much you can get from this passage. There's so much I've gotten from this passage. This is my rice coffee that I drink every morning with a bunch of other stuff in it, from collagen to protein powder. Yeah, I put all that stuff in my coffee. But there's so much that you can get, that I've gotten from this passage. One, what I noticed about this passage is step by step instructions that has been given to this young lady. Um, and she obeyed. It didn't share in the text where she asked questions, where she was like, what do you mean? Which neighbor? She wasn't asking all these questions. She got instructions and she acted. She obeyed. Um, and I like how the sons got responsibilities. It wasn't just her that had to do the work. Her sons, he said, you and your sons, meaning not just you. I know parents, y'all like to do everything for your kids, but right here, you and your son had to do the work, not just you doing the work and your kids just get to sit and chill. You and your sons, okay? Um, Another thing, yeah, so both parties were involved. And I like the accountability. With everyone being involved, you have accountability, right? The mom can hold the sons accountable, the sons can hold the mom accountable. So there's accountability. When she said, what shall I do? what do and he said, "What do you" he said, "What shall I do?" And then he asked her, "What do you have?" So, a lot of times we're thinking like, what is it that I have that I can offer or that I can use? What I got from this passage is that your resource, you already have the resources that you need to be able to move forward. So for her, she had resources in the home. She had oil. She thought the oil was useless, but she had oil. Okay, so she had some resources. What I want you to think about is what physical resources you have in your home, and then also think about what internal resources you have inside of you. Because we all have resources. Here's the thing, when God is calling us to do something, when God is calling us to ask, uh, um, to um, um, to live out something, He has already given you the tools. He has already given you the um, the grit. He's already given you everything you need to be able to move forward. But here's where some of us get in trouble. We want the blueprint. We want the whole map. We want the whole outline. We want the full story from cover to cover. Like, God, I ain't taking not one step until I get the full blueprint, the full outline, the full framework, the full story from beginning to the end. Because the reason why I feel like we do that is because we want to be able to evaluate the whole thing and say yay or nay, right? You want to evaluate God's plan for yourself and be able to say, yeah, God, I don't like that plan. Or, yeah, God, that's a good one. Let's move forward. No, you don't get to call the shots. You get to obey, but you don't get to call the shots. Not when you're the one in need. You don't get to call the shots. God calls the shots. You just got to obey. And then you got to trust because here Elisha gave her the first few steps. He said, "Okay, you got this oil. Now he's saying go borrow the vessels. Go ask your neighbors." We live in a country where folks barely want to talk to their neighbors. Now she Do you know, if it were today, we barely talk to our neighbors. Y'all know sometimes when you driving in your home, folks be literally keeping their head down just so they don't have to look up and say hi to you, just so they don't have to wave, just so they don't have to interact. Some folks be talking about how they be running into their home just so they don't have to react. So can you imagine you're that neighbor that don't like to talk to people, that don't even know your neighbors. You don't know your neighbors' names. You don't interact with your neighbors. Now you are being called to go to your neighbors and ask them for vessels. What is it for you? What is it that you might have to ask your neighbors for something for, right? Can you imagine knocking? Hey, neighbor, I know we have never met. I know I've never talked to you. I know I've been dodging you, don't want to say hi, but I've been instructed to come and ask you for some vessels. I've been instructed to come ask you for some fill in the blanks. What are you going to do? All right. So yeah, so she had to go borrow vessels from everywhere, from all her neighbors, not just the favorite neighbors, not just the neighbors you talk to, but from all your neighbors. And here's the thing: when God gives you instructions, you have to follow it to the T. You have to follow it to the T. And then he told her to empty the vessels. Do not gather just a few. Gather a whole bunch, okay? And then he said, shut the door. Um, you and your sons, then pour into all the vessels and set aside. So she followed all the instructions. Well, the first half of the instruction. He didn't tell her what to do next after that last piece. He just gave her just enough so she can function, so she can move forward, right? God does the same with us. He gives us just enough because some of us, we're neurodivergent, right? Some neurodivergent people, you can't give them multiple instructions. You have to give them, okay, give them one or two, let them do it, then come back and give them one or two. Some people you can't overwhelm folks. So you God he did not Elisha did not give them the whole playbook. He did not give them the whole plan. You know, he gave them instructions, let's say 1 through 5. Then she had to go do 1 through 5. Then she had to come back for the rest, right? So you don't need the whole plan. And let's be real, we can't handle the whole plan. We get overwhelmed so easily. And some of us, if you're, I feel like my nervous system is like a little shot. So some of us, we get a few steps and we start glitching. So we can't handle the whole plan. It's overwhelming. Sometimes when I get a glimpse of what God is trying to do with me, I'm like, oh God, let's take it slow. Then I want to start telling him how I want to proceed. When God gives you a plan, when God gives you some steps, it's not just for you, it's for the people that you have to serve as well. This lady had oil that she's been sitting on and didn't even realize she was sitting on a treasure. This lady had oil that some people needed. And from this experience, I'm sure her sons learned a lot of lessons. They were able to learn lessons that they can take and apply in other areas of their lives. I'm sure they learned what it was to work. I'm sure their faith was built from this situation. Like your assignment has purpose. Your assignment is not just for you, it's for other people as well. From her assignment, her sons benefited, the people who received the oil and needed the oil benefited, and she benefited. Everyone benefited, right? Now, the neighbors that she borrowed from, they probably, they probably built a relationship out of that. Who knows? You just never know the impact that your assignment has. So you have to be obedient and not be like, God, I need the whole story. I need the whole playbook before I get the going. You just have to get going. So she did the first few steps. And then it says, now it came to pass. That tells me it has been a little while. I don't know how long, but it's been a little while. So from there, for me, I feel like I gathered that she must have to be, patient. Maybe it took her some time to gather the stuff. Maybe it took her some time to fill the jars. I know for me, when I am making products, you got to go and get the containers, the packaging to put the stuff in. Once you get it, then you have to fulfill. Then you're dealing with the fulfillment piece, right? And then you have to go and do more. So that tells me there's some time there. But she had to be patient with the process. And can you imagine? You're getting this assignment, you're doing the work, you're going to the neighbors, you're getting these jars, you get the vessels or whatever. She must have been like, I'm I don't know if every neighbor said yes to her. I don't know if everyone was happy to see her. I don't know. But this wasn't an easy task. This required a work. This required some level of humility because now she had to go ask some neighbors that she probably didn't talk to. Who knows? Back then, she probably did. But it takes some humility on our part to be able to um, go and ask people for things. And her assignment required other people. Don't miss that. Her assignment required other people to help her. Without the neighbors' vessels, right? She had to go borrow the vessels. Who who is attached to your assignment? Who do you need to talk to see this assignment through? Who do you need to connect with? Because your assignment sometimes has other people connected to it. And you have to be humble enough and you have to be obedient enough to go and talk to these people that is attached to your assignment. There's so many things that I'm getting from this, and it's humbling because sometimes, I'm a mover and a shaker. I don't want to do anything that's going to slow me down. And sometimes people slow me down because not everybody moves as fast as I want to, right? So there's some level of humility. There's a level of obedience because sometimes your assignment is not just that doesn't just involve you. Her assignment involved her son, it involved her neighbors. Who else? She had to go borrow vessels everywhere, your neighbors, da da da. Yeah, her son and her neighbors. And then so she had to go back to Elijah. Then she said, now it came to pass, the vessels were full, that she said to her son, yada, yada, okay. Then she came and told the man of God, Elijah. So she went back to Elijah and said, okay, I've done all of this. Now what? So this is where she did the work and had to come back for part two, had to come back for the rest of the instructions. How many of us, once you do, how many of us are even completing the first part of the assignment that God has given us, right? How many of us has completed that? Already 17 minutes in. This is why I probably should have broken this up. But because I want these to be bite sizes like 10 minutes, but it's hard for me to stick to that. But how many of us are completing the first part of the instruction, the first sets of instructions that God has given to us? Because you have to complete it. She had to complete those first few instructions before she can go back to Elisha and say, "Okay, I'm done. What's next?" You can't go to God and say, "What's next?" if you haven't even completed the first part of the assignment. Some of us will be, "All right, God, what's next?" But we hadn't even completed the first part of the assignment. So she had to complete the first part of the assignment, and then she went to back to him and said, "Okay, I did what I had to do. What's next?" And he said, "Go sell the oil." He said, "Go sell the oil, pay your debt, and you and your sons live off the rest." There's so much more I can talk about, share about this, but this reminds me of, you see how she had enough to sell and she had enough to live off of for her and her sons. So she was able to sell with from what she sold, she was able to pay off her debt and live off the rest. She had more than enough. More than enough. So, whatever assignment that's been given to you, whatever it is that God is asking you to do, you have more than enough in your home and inside of you to complete your task and to have it abundantly and to overflow. When I see this, I'm thinking about overflow. She had more than enough to be able to sell, pay off her debt, and then live off the rest. What is it that God is calling you to look inside or look inside your home to bring to life? What resource do you have inside your home? What resource do you have inside of you that God is calling forward? So many of us have needs, and I'm talking to myself too, because baby, so many of us have needs, but we're not willing to take the step to do the assignment, to do the work. We we've gotten to a place. I feel like we're in an area where, you know, how people say, "Oh, God knows my heart." we say stuff like God knows my heart, or it's not about works, it's not about action. You're right. Your works don't bring you any closer to God or anything like that, because what he did on the cross was everything for you, okay? But do not use God knows my heart for an excuse to not take action, to not be obedient to the word of God. You still have a purpose here on earth, and that purpose requires some level of action, okay? That purpose requires some level of action. So do not use God knows my heart just so you can sit back and be like, God got this. Yes, he got it. He got you. He got everything else. But on the other side of it, you still have to show up. You still have to be obedient to whatever he's calling you to do. So, my encouragement for you today, be obedient. Be like this widow and be obedient, be humble, right? And remember that you have more than enough. God has given you everything you need to take action, and you have more than enough to live off of. All right. So, hope this a message helped you in some way. This is what I got from it, and this is what I'm going to be um, meditating on, and just fighting, working towards just taking action and being obedient in what God has calling me to do. So, all right, guys, love you. Enjoy your day, and see you tomorrow.